If you're a fan of Asian cinema, then you've probably come across films made by Wong Kar-wai. He's a legendary Hong Kong director best known for movies like Chungking Express, In the Mood for Love, and 2046. His improv-style filmmaking makes his movies feel organic, natural, and tugging at your emotions. With the help of various cinematographers, his films pop with saturated colors, beautiful set design, and gorgeous, sometimes natural lighting. But what many aren't aware of is that in the mid-2000s, he came to the US and shot a film with some of Hollywood's biggest actors, Jude Law, Natalie Portman, Rachel Weisz, and David Strathairn. All of these A-listers were supporting casts for the lead actor, singer-songwriter, Norah Jones. I'm not going to explain the plot because there's so many different ones, but know that in this movie, it's split between 3 or 4 stories that Norah Jones' character interacts with. When I ask other Wong Kar-wai fans if they've seen this film, 99% of the time, people don't even know that it exists. More importantly, I think it's a great example of beautiful lighting that I wish I saw in movies more today. Shot by one of my favorite cinematographers, Darius Khondji. You might know him better as the DP for movies such as Se7en, Uncut Gems, Panic Room, and other fantastic films. His use of contrast and color puts him above people like Roger Deakins, at least in my opinion. Now, I'll admit, not every frame is 100% perfection, but the movie is littered with some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen. Take this long shot of Jude Law, the restaurant owner, wiping down his display and walking over to Norah Jones, who's asleep at the counter. Notice the red light motivated by the neon sign. Since this is before the days of LED lighting, it most likely is lit from a tungsten light with red gel on it to help fill the room. The warm orange key light, the lime green lights in the bakery case contrast the blue and purple set design. In addition to this, notice the camera placement. Outside the building, shooting through the glass, giving extra layers of color and depth in the foreground. Adding elements in front of the camera isn't a new technique, but the way they do it adds an additional layer of appeal that would be generic otherwise. Take a look at this short clip of Norah coming home from a long shift. Look at all the colors crammed into the sliver of door frame. See how the bright part of the frame used to draw your eye to her is a lamp on the desk, and how the light in the window helps illuminate her as she leans back in the chair. This type of frame is what Wong Kar-wai is best at. You see this a lot in his movie, In the Mood for Love. He's a master at shooting small, cramped hallways, doing everything he can to make the audience focus on what he wants you to see. Now let's look at this bar scene and how dark the foreground is. 9 times out of 10 on set, if this was the frame, the DP would come up to me and ask, what lights do we have left to use for the foreground actor? But by keeping the extra in darkness, it brings your eye to the supporting cast and the neon lights behind him. That slight neutral colored key light is all that we need to emphasize the saturation of the red background light. If we were to make the key light red, now all your eyes see is the color red in frame. The color contrast is lost, and the frame isn't as interesting as all the colors mesh together. This is why contrast in color is as important as contrast in exposure. Speaking of exposure, notice the contrast ratio between his face and the background. The fill side of his face stays bright enough to see, and the background is peppered with light and dark areas, the brightest parts being around his face, the area the filmmakers want your eye to go to. The same goes for Rachel's character when she walks into the bar. See how she is lit brighter than anybody around her? The DP and gaffer could easily create a wide, soft key light for everybody in the room, but they chose to add a top light based off the shadows on her eyes to pop her from the group to signify that her character is special or meaningful. Then, when they cut back to David's character, they sneak in the tiniest bit of blue into the frame, and with his somber look, we, the audience, subconsciously know that something sad has or is about to happen. One thing I also want to point out is the wall reflections on these 2 shots. Not only does the reflection help add a sense of intrigue, but the angle is in the same viewpoint that Norah's character is watching from. Almost like a point of view shot, we, the audience, get to eavesdrop at the conversation these 2 are about to have. The blocking is simple but effective, just a single sidestep from Norah and David as they land on their marks. And now for my favorite shot in the whole film. I had to pause the movie when I first watched it to study how they did it. I couldn't put my finger on why, but besides the stellar framing and saturated colors, It's a shot that most filmmakers would easily say they didn't need. It adds nothing in terms of dialogue or moving the plot forward, but adds so much to Rachel's character. It is these types of moments that make the characters feel real. Another thing these filmmakers do well is showcase their locations. Even in these 2 quick shots, they make sure to show the beautiful mountains behind Natalie Portman and always shoot from below Natalie's eyeline. It's reasons like these and many more that puts My Blueberry Nights in the top 10 of my favorite films. I gravitate to films that show a lot of thought and purpose put into them. If you've never seen a Wong Kar-wai film, I highly suggest that you pick one that sounds interesting to you, even though they all are wonderful in their own way. And if you're in the process of making a film yourself, I hope this inspires you to push your film as far as it can go. See you next time.